Hey,
Hello and welcome if you're just joining us.
I'm Nina Simonds in Seattle.
And I'm Chuck Allen in Los Angeles. And
Good
we
morning or
are
good afternoon,
coaching.
depending on where you are. We know a lot of you are on the Singapore time zone, so we're so happy to be here and be sharing Coactive with you.
Absolutely.
We're just going to give people a couple minutes to get present. People are coming into the room. If you want to share in the chat where you are, we'd love to know.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let us know where you're joining us from. Oh, we
Fabulous.
got Paul and Sydney. Welcome, Paul. And oh, Vanita from Beijing. How cool. Welcome.
All
We
right.
got,
My friend Kelly from Seattle is here. Way to go. I'm
oh,
so happy.
yay. And Serge in Denver, Daiki in Tokyo. Welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just asking you to say hello from wherever you are joining us from. We have already a very international group.
Yes, I hope it's not too hot wherever you are, or
Exactly.
at least not too humid, but I know it is. It's a humid time of year.
If you're far enough in the south, it could be cold.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got Karen joining us from Beijing. Welcome. And let's see if I can remember my Chinese. You can tell me if I'm doing okay here. Zhao Sheng Hao. All right, how's that? All right, I got a wow from Karen. Okay,
Very
I
well.
rock,
Good
I rocked good
job.
morning in Chinese.
That's wonderful.
Okay, all right, because that could have gone very badly. That
That's
you know,
right. That's
you
right.
never know.
Well, it's always nice when we give it a try to be welcoming in
Mhm.
different languages, especially when we're the guests. So,
Yeah, Karen, that might be everything. I can't promise too much.
all
I practiced that
right.
one a lot. It took a lot of work.
Yes. Well, we are happy to have you here. We know that it's a weekday, so we want to dive right in so that we can share what we're going to be up to today and have you experience the power of coactive coaching.
Yeah, so we're only going to show very few slides and then we'll get into it. So here's what we have on schedule for us for this hour.
We're going to start by learning what coaching is, just sharing a basic definition because that word gets used a lot in a lot of different contexts. And then we're going to share a coaching tool with you.
And then Nina is going to demonstrate some coaching. We're actually going to do real coaching with one of the people who is already in our group of attendees. And so you'll get to experience a few different coaching skills. We will debrief the coaching demonstration, and then we'll do our best to make some time to answer some questions. You will see at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, there's a little box called Q&A, and if you click that, you can actually ask some questions. And Nina and I will do our best to answer those questions toward the end of our session today.
We want to begin by something we call our designed alliance. Anytime you're in a coaching conversation or when we're leading in a group, we always want to be intentional about our expectations so that we are in agreement about what is going on and what we want to do together. And so the first thing we want you to know about the way we work at CTI is we practice co-leading. So we rarely ever do anything alone. So that's why Chuck and I are here together. And we're not scripted. We are building off of one another and building off what happens in the demonstration. And we have a set agenda, yes, but other than that, we really want it to be organic and authentic.
Which means that we might occasionally interrupt each other, even with the best of intentions, and we've agreed ahead of time that that's okay. it could happen by accident, and we're okay with a little bit of stepping on each other's toes because we feel it's better for your experience than it would be to run from a script.
That's right. That's right. And it's also a little more challenging on Zoom because we're watching our timing, but in general, we do a good job of taking turns. The second agreement is confidentiality. Usually we are holding that in our classrooms and of course with our clients. But in this case, because we are recording and we want to be able to distribute this so that other people who didn't make this time can watch the demonstration. Our volunteer has agreed that it's not a confidential conversation. So we're very gracious and thankful for her being willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. And along with that, the context of this is not a role play. We're not pretending or acting. This will be a real coaching session. And that means we don't even know what the topic is going to be yet. I think we know now who the coaching client or coachee is going to be. So it's kind of exciting because you don't quite know exactly what's going to happen. But we figure that you would prefer a real experience rather than something kind of staged or acted. So yeah, there could be some surprises. We never know. Nina, I'm also noticing you and I haven't introduced ourselves yet. So
Yeah,
let's do this slide and then maybe we can
that
take a
sounds
moment and
good.
say who we are, okay?
So what is coaching? We follow the ICF's definition, the International Coaching Federation, as coaching being a partnership with individuals in a thought-provoking creative process that inspires them to maximize both their personal and professional potential.
Right. So a lot of what that means is coaching being a partnership between the coach and the client or the coachee. And what makes that really special is it's one of those unique times when the coach actually isn't an expert. So we're not training or consulting or advising our clients. We're typically asking the client a lot of questions so they can access their own wisdom and their own resources. Makes it very different from a lot of these other approaches.
Yeah, so it's not coaching them into anything. It's really a more open-ended conversation. It's meant to be both empowering and thought-provoking. Doesn't mean we don't challenge our clients. It does, but it does mean that we are client-centered in the conversation. We really want to tap into that person's wisdom, as Chuck already mentioned.
Hmm. So, Nina, give us just a little bit about you and your background.
Okay, I've been coaching about 20 years. I live on the West Coast in the United States, but I also started my practice in the Midwest. I work primarily in the leadership and team development spaces. So working with mid-level to senior leaders inside organizations. Sometimes that's tech or professional services. Sometimes that's the public sector. I really enjoy working with people who are also trying to help other people. So that's a big part of my practice. And I do private clients, but I also work with a couple of firms on bigger assignments with other coaches, which also fulfills my value of being part of a team.
Nice. Well, bottom lined there. Uh, and I'm Chuck Allen, and I'm based in Los Angeles, California. And prior to coaching, my background was as an IT consultant, mainly for the entertainment industry. And I've been a coach now for over 20 years, kind of like Nina. And yeah, I'm now a master certified coach as of about 3 years ago. Attained that credential from the International Coaching Federation. I do a combination of executive coaching and leadership training. My company focuses on humanizing the workplace. So that's really a lot what we're focused on. We bring a lot of coactive skills and approaches to the kinds of training that we do inside of companies. And I grabbed this opportunity for what we're calling the Singapore time zone, because I've spent a lot of time in Singapore and I've done a lot of my work in that part of the world. So yeah, so a lot of the places that you're calling in from are places I'm familiar with.
We do
So
want
great
you
to
to
be with all
know
of you.
that the methodology that we're sharing with you is very cross-functional. So while we both love working with leaders in an organizational context, coactive coaching is very applicable whether you want to do health coaching, career coaching, you name it. It's a very good foundation because we follow the ICF principles, and we also just focus on coaching the whole person, which is what you're probably going to see during this demonstration.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yay. We're so
Yeah,
happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
it is. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is a tool that we use with a lot of our clients. Oftentimes, this tool is very helpful at the beginning of a coaching engagement because it helps a client to sort of self-assess where they are in different parts of their life and where they may want to focus and do some work and maybe achieve some things or maybe make some significant changes. So the way it typically works is we give them this blank wheel with the titles around the edge. And then what the client will do is rate each section according to how fulfilled they are in that part of their life. And they get a lot of choice in how they interpret this. A couple of things that often come up when people see this for the first time. In the upper left, you're going to notice a category called physical environment. That would be things like, where do you live? What is the environment you're living in? Where does your body spend time? Are you mostly in an office? Do you spend a lot of time in a car or a bus or a train commuting? Are you near nature or far away from nature? So these are all elements of your physical environment.
I'm so glad you explained that one. One thing we do want you to know is that there's no set of 8 categories. This is the ones that we found to be most useful for our work with our clients. And you can take this wheel and adapt it and change it for your own purposes. So these are just our best attempt to be somewhat comprehensive about what's going on in someone's life.
Mhm. Yeah. Assuming that all these things are somewhat important to most people, the client can decide. And if they're not interested in a certain area, we don't have to work with that.
Yeah.
But we as coaches are available to address any of these areas as topics.
Absolutely. And so this person rated their wheel, and it's again their personal satisfaction. It's not based on anyone else's. And then they put a line, and then you can see the shading just kind of gives you a sense of where they might feel the most fulfillment and where they might feel the most stress. And so it's not about problem solving. It's really about where do they want to grow? What do they want to do?
Mm,
Based on what they're seeing on their wheel, what's the next step for them?
right. One of the things that's unique about this is when we have our clients do this exercise and fill in the wheel, when I as a coach look at this, I don't make any decisions for the client about what we need to work on. So for example, you might look at this person's wheel, and this is just some anonymous person who's being represented here. You might look at their wheel and go, "Ooh, health is really low. We should work on that." As a coach, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say to the client, which part of this do you want to actually focus on? Because they may not choose health. They may really want to work on friends and family and take that from an 8 to a 10. And
Yeah.
and our assumption is that that focus will improve all the other areas of the wheel anyway.
Right, right. The categories are a little bit artificial, right? Because we all know that things tend to impact one another when it comes to your career and your family and your money and your health. So you're going to see this in the demonstration that I'm about to do with our great volunteer. We also just want you to be paying attention to what I'm doing and what I'm not doing in the coaching, because we want to be able to have a healthy dialogue
Mhm.
afterwards about what surprised you and also what confirmed what you already thought you knew about coaching.
Right. So in just a moment, we're going to have Bonita join us as our coachee, our client. And as Nina was saying, what we want to have you do is focus on what are the skills that Nina's using, what are the tools she's using, as she said, what is she doing and not doing. as the coach. And that's because afterward, we're going to have a debrief conversation, and we want to have you all contributing questions and observations in that conversation. We'll ask you, what did you see? What did you observe? All right. Benita, do you want to come join us? And while we're waiting, Nina, what would you like from me on time?
Thank you for asking. Why don't you tell me when we're at 12, if
Okay.
we haven't already finished, and I'll do my best to wrap up in the next minute or two after that.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to go off camera and let Nina take it away.
Well, hello.
Hello, Nina, and hello, Chuck.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yes, thank you for volunteering.
And thank you for this opportunity. It's really nice to be in this demo.
Awesome, awesome. And your first name is Bonita. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes,
It's
yes.
a beautiful name, beautiful. So, anything you want me to know before we dive into your coaching topic and your wheel about being a good coach for you? Anything that would help you feel more ease and comfort in this conversation?
Not at this moment. Just bring the full self. Just try whatever you want to try.
Oh, I love that. You're open. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And you'll let me know if a question doesn't work for you, feel free to just say, can you ask a different question? And I'm totally flexible also.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, what was it like? I know you did the wheel ahead of time, so you could be ready for this conversation. What was it like to complete your wheel?
What does it mean, the question? To complete?
How was the experience of filling it out? Like, was it fun? Was it surprising? Was it hard?
I did the wheel quite quickly.
Uh-huh.
And then when the romance, sort of like the significant part,
Yes.
rated really low, I was like, no surprise, It's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no surprise, huh? Yeah. What was surprising on your wheel?
That's a good question. What's surprising? Is when I read friendship and sort of like and also the overall environment of myself, I
Mhm.
feel really grounded, happy. I feels like, oh, I am in the right place. And also what surprised me when I read my personal growth, and there is an inner voice saying, Bonita, you're working so hard.
Wow. It sounds like you have some good self-awareness.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we can focus anywhere you want in this conversation. So as we start coaching, which of the areas would you like to think more about and maybe explore more?
My focus still on the significant part, the romance part, and I think it's sort of I'm aware that it has something to do with my health issue as well. So
Got
it
it.
affects my health.
It does. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you bringing the topic that matters most to you. I think that will make the conversation more real for everyone.
And
Yeah.
and also speaking, it's a very private part of me. So speaking out in public, there is some sort of like a fear or worry or concern at the backstage.
Yeah. And anything that you need to have it still be the choice, like the topic you want to bring, because we want you to feel like you're bringing the topic that you're choosing that you really want to work on. Yeah.
Yes, I really want to work on, and it's sort of like to make it transparent to you and also to the audience as well.
Yes.
Where I am right now.
Oh, I appreciate your authenticity, and we will hold it with care.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if I may ask, what did you give yourself? You said it was a lower score?
It's a 2.
A 2. Yeah. And
I
what did
actually want to give it 0.
yeah, but you gave yourself a little bit. What's the 2? Like what gave it a 2?
Oh. Oh. What is happening right now is that I'm going through the divorce. And the 2 that I gave is actually that I give the credit to myself. But I still have that tender part inside of me that sometimes I complain, but also gratitude also comes out. But it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed you put your hand on your chest as you described it.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's some emotion here.
And it's like a self-care. It reminds me of what I told you about my health. It's like a give myself some care myself, working so hard. It's not easy for
Mhm.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. May I share my intuition?
Yes.
My intuition also tells me that it's that you're taking a stand for something in this process that's going to be moving you towards what you want when it comes to romance.
Yes, yes. Well, I thank you for mentioning that. And it sort of like give me a bigger picture of where my life is heading with. Because
Mhm.
ever since the beginning of this divorce topic, I sort of like enter into another phase of my personal growth. So I looked a lot into intimacy, into my trauma, into where I need to grow as a person. So yeah, a lot of things are happening right now at this moment.
Mm.
And I think I'm growing into something, or yes, someone that I want to. And at the same time that I have to let go, it's not have to, but well,
Mm.
when I say have to, it hurts here. It hurts.
Ah.
But I know I know that it's like a peeling. It's like slate peeling into the second phase. I let go of something so that something new can grow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great topic for the wheel because the wheel is all about expansion and moving towards something new. And so I'm wondering, in service of where you are and where you want to grow, what's the number you want to explore together? You know what I mean? Like how far out on that wheel would you like to have this conversation? Do you want to talk about what it would be like to be at a 10 or a 6 or a 4? Oh, you got a big smile.
Yes, it's not because there is a voice saying, "Oh, you are not going anywhere."
Ah.
Oh, you are not going anywhere. You won't get a 10.
Mm. Mm. You know what we call that voice in coaching?
Saboteur.
Oh, you're so smart. You already knew the voice. Yeah.
But it's so real, and somehow
Mm-hmm.
I resonate more with that. Oh my God.
What's here now?
I want to laugh at myself, bring a little
Ah,
humor, like
yeah.
um, mm,
So what's the number that we can work with today, Bonita, just for the sake of the
yeah.
sim?
What's the number? 4.
4. Awesome.
Double already.
Yeah. What's that? Say that again.
Doubled.
Double. We're doubling it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we were to double your sense of satisfaction in the significant other romance category, let's just see what would be happening at a 4.
At a 4, if I'm a 4, I will be more assertive in a relationship.
Mm. What would that give you?
It will give me power,
Mm.
give me a sense of being grounded, and also I'm thinking about this that I will be held more gently.
You are expressive.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So more power and you will be held more gently.
Yes.
Who's doing the holding?
It's me myself.
Hmm. You are inspiring, Bonita.
I am doing the holding. I am holding myself more gently. I'm giving myself more care in this relationship. So it's not about the other. It's about myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That feels very clear. And also it feels wise.
Yes. Yes. Now I have more awareness, more power in myself already.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you're feeling that power and that growth, what else is happening?
I feel more clarity. I have more clarity now. And there is more courage in myself to face the divorce.
Where in
Nina,
your,
that's 12 minutes.
thank you, Chuck. Where in your, we're kind of moving towards completion, even though we've just begun, it feels like, Bonita, but where physically do you feel that sense of clarity?
Very strange on my back, on my spine.
Yeah.
I feel more upright. I feel the weights very naturally towards the earth. So it's like the middle part of my body, more clarity. My spine.
Awesome. Yeah. And you know what's most important is that you know where it is. You don't even really, saying it out loud is great for me, but I also can feel your sense of where it is from the way you describe it. Yeah. Yeah. What else would you want to be able to say before we start to move towards completing about this part of your life at a 4? That what are you learning so far?
Originally, when I thought if I wanted to talk about this topic, I would talk a lot about the other. But what's showing up for me is that it's all about myself. Even though the huddling, the care in the relationship is what I give myself.
Yeah.
So that is a very big awareness for me. It also relates to my thought that it affects my health, like what I can do for my health as well.
Yeah.
To really care about myself, it's really something that I can do already.
Wow. I love the surprise in that because it didn't occur to me until like you said it even that, yeah, that is the transformational part of this conversation, right? Is that it's okay. In fact, it's actually great that we're talking about you in this category because that's who's here, right? You're the one who's
Yes,
here. Yeah.
yes. I feel more autonomy
Hmm.
here. Like I can take care. I can.
Yeah. Yeah. And you smile when you reach these realizations. It feels like there's like, what's the smile about for you?
It's confidence
Mm,
and also a very deep belief that I can.
wonderful. So,
Yeah.
what do you want to commit to, if anything, coming out of this short conversation?
I really want to take this away. This is
Yeah.
really a huge realization for me.
Yeah. And what will it look like to take this with you? Is there a way you want to quantify it? Is it like certain times of the day or when something specific happens that you'll remember this? What's the way to measure your commitment?
Oh, okay. Hmm.
And let me know if I'm getting too granular with you.
No, it's okay because I'm also thinking about that. Um, I think when I feel down or when I feel tired,
Mhm.
when I feel tired, I can do that to myself. When I feel like I'm struggling with time or struggling with schedules, I can do that
Yeah,
to remind myself, just take it easy. Yes.
cool. I can see this happening for you.
I'm already doing that.
Yes, yes. May I make one other request?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, will you also remember that spine feeling that you found when you need it?
Because right now I have a lot of time sitting in front of the computer. So I would just remind myself just to sit in that way to give power to myself, to bring power to my spine and my upper part of my body, to have that sense of dignity,
Yes.
dignity, neutrality, and being grounded on the chair.
Yay. Thank you for saying yes to that. How will that serve you as we close out that last thing?
Well, I feel refreshed and empowered. I feel the air is different.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And I feel very grateful that you chose to volunteer, Anita.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much for sharing of yourself so vulnerably and so clearly.
Thank you.
Yes. Wishing you well.
Thank you.
We're going to let
Thank
you go
you.
back into the audience so you can relax, but it's permission to talk about the coaching with the group.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes.
Thanks, Bonita. And Bonita, you can also ask questions and contribute to the conversation in the chat as well. So there's already a note in the chat. We're going to ask you to identify any of the skills that you noticed Nina using, and we'll talk about those. And oh, how sweet. We already got an acknowledgement for Bonita. She is very strong.
Yes.
Yeah. So already some things coming through here from Gervine, holding the space. Absolutely. And yeah, Kelly, lots of somatic observation. So what we're talking about there is a skill in coaching of articulating what we're observing. And a lot of what we're observing is some of the nonverbals that we're seeing in the client.
Yeah. And, you
Yeah.
know, you want to use your intuition about how much of that to bring. I think in this example, it was enhancing the coaching. So if I had given if I had said something about a client's smile or their expressiveness and it had shut them down, then it would have gotten a different signal that, okay, maybe that's not such a good thing to be noticing. So we're always dancing in the moment. There's no right or wrong way to do the coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to invite you to put in the chat any skills that you notice Nina using. And if any questions come up for you that you'd like us to answer, you can put those in the Q&A.
That's right.
So what did you see Nina doing in this coaching? Yeah, Paul, fantastic. A lot of listening. Yeah, exactly. Not rushing. Um, Matching the client's pace and in a lot of ways her energy. Um, Question, and this is for Paul, but anybody else who wants to answer it. How did you know that Nina was listening? What were some of the ways we knew that she was doing that? Yeah, so paraphrasing, yeah.
Or using the client's words sometimes.
Yep.
Body language, yes. Definitely some mirroring happening.
Yeah. So Nina, actually, I'm going to ask you to double click a little on the mirroring.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am a pretty thorough mirror. In fact, I have to self-manage. We have a coaching skill called self-management, which is when we try not to default to certain behaviors, whether that's talking more, talking less, mirroring more, mirroring less. And so I was wanting to know, I wanted Bonita to know that I could hear her and I could feel her as much as another person can feel someone. And so sometimes it felt very natural to mirror what she was doing. Also, because of her expressiveness, I wanted her to feel free to continue to be expressive. And then there were other times when I wanted to mirror and I chose not to, maybe more towards the end, because I also wanted to be careful I wasn't distracting her.
Yeah. If you're continuously mirroring nonstop, it could get a little bit weird. But I like mirroring, and I even do it if I'm doing audio only coaching, like if I'm coaching over the phone. I
Yeah.
like the mirroring because it helps me have a better understanding of what the client's experience is. So
Exactly.
yeah. So I might say
Exactly.
like something like, what's your body position right now? I'm going to match that.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
also have a coaching skill called witnessing. And sometimes if I'm in witnessing mode, I mirror a
Mhm.
little bit less because I want them to
Mhm.
feel seen and like I'm watching what they're doing. So it's
Yeah,
very subtle, these
absolutely.
things.
Yeah. And so for those of you observing, we're going to ask you to also contribute in the chat. What did you observe that Nina wasn't doing? Maybe there was something that surprised you or you expected that she didn't do. What would be in that category?
And while you're putting those in, we'll also just mention that we always want to be sure we're clear on the topic in coaching. In this case, the topic was kind of pre-arranged, but by me asking her which element of the wheel she wanted to work in, and that she could work in anything, that was my way of surfacing a topic with this tool.
Yeah.
Then we explore for quite a bit of time. And then towards the end, almost always we move into some kind of action or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm seeing from Paul, no assumptions, a lot of checking things to make sure that the client was using her own reference points, her own definitions, and absolutely not giving any answers or suggestions. Yeah.
Although I
Did you?
did use my intuition early on. I kind of broke my own
Mhm.
demo rule of
Oh,
offering
really?
it really early. Yes.
Well, I noticed you asked permission to share
I
the
did. I
intuition. You
did.
didn't just impose it. So
That's right.
absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's when she mentioned that I think I said something about taking a stand. And so we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. And Nina, what stood out for you about this coaching session? Like, how was it for you as the coach?
It was delightful, actually. I think when you have a client who is self-aware and willing to go deep, I think that's really lovely. I also wanted to be protective of Bonita because she was being generous and sharing herself with a lot of people. So I found myself in that tension point between opening things up and wanting her to feel a sense of safety in the conversation. So that was one thing that was going on for me. But in general, it's always wonderful when you have a client that's this self-aware and is willing to talk about what's really on their heart and in their, on their heart and mind, instead of, we could have picked a topic that maybe was safer, but might have been flatter. Like it might have not had as much what we call resonance. And so I was really happy that we chose a topic that was resonant for Benita, or that she chose the topic that was,
Yeah. We have a note from Kelly, having Bonita imagine into a future.
Yes, so that's a lot what the wheel is about, right?
Yeah. But that's a skill also in the coactive coaching of visioning.
Yeah.
So in the skill of visioning, we have the client live in the future for a few moments. We have them step into that future and talk about what it's like, what's there.
Yes.
That, I think it's a missing step in a lot of our world, that we don't spend enough time actually looking at what we want, what the goal is, and what we would get if we attained the goal. What would it be like if we achieved it? I think we could spend a lot more time on that.
Yeah, and if I was just bouncing off that a little bit, Chuck, it's like I think we focus on goals, but who's the one who wants the goal, right? And are we really focused on what we really want versus what someone else wants for us, or what our organization wants, or what our partner wants? And so just that validation that what you want really matters is such a powerful part of coaching.
I think it's a really good point, because a lot of times when people are ready to be coached, a lot of times it's because they have gotten to a stage in their life where they've done all the right things, they've met all the expectations, and they realize that their fulfillment is not as high as they would hope. So I did all the right things. Why am I not feeling more fulfilled? Why am I still, tired or frustrated? I'm doing all the right things. And it's, for a lot of people, it's, oh, I've been doing other people's expectations, and I haven't taken the time to discover what my wants are, what my objectives or my values are. So coaching is a really great space for actually having people discover, like, what's important to me? What would I prioritize? And they might not make different choices, but at least that they would know that their choices match what they want.
Exactly. So well said. I just want to double click on what Paul's saying about no assumptions, even when it comes to where the client wants to go. So if you remember, I didn't automatically just say, what would a 10 look like? And I actually gave her some options. Like, where is it that you want to explore this conversation? And then not having any kind of judgment or reaction to the 4. And I love that she said it would be double. What a great frame. She's doubling her score.
That was such a cool moment, because whenever I observe coaching, I'm always imagining, what would I do if I was the coach? How would that be for me if I was the coach? So in that moment, I was thinking, I might have to self-manage a little bit of disappointment that she wasn't going for a higher number. Right? I was like, oh, just a 4? Oh, and that was my initial response. And then I heard her go, it's double. I was like, oh, okay. This is cool, right?
Yeah,
this is
clearly
cool.
you haven't been through a divorce, Chuck. No.
Right. So much. What's that?
I'm joking. As someone who's been divorced, I totally understand the 4. So maybe that was.
Yeah, well, right. So it matters a lot to her.
Right.
And that's what's important. And she's actually coming from that place that 4 is double. It's like twice what I'm giving myself now. And I would not have the same conclusion, but that doesn't matter. So in other words, my perspective is irrelevant here.
Yes, and we also use something that we want to be really explicit about. In this demonstration, I use something called powerful questions, and that's one of the things that allows us to not make as many assumptions, right? So even when I was asking her what the 4 was like, we were fleshing it out, it would have been really easy for me to decide to ask her about, like, who was this next person that she wanted to be with, right? And instead, my questions were so short, what would be happening, I think I asked. And so it really helped her, I think, focus on herself, which was one of the best outcomes of this, was that it was about her, not about that new next partner or anything like that. So that
Sure.
was really fun to see. And again, sometimes we can make assumptions. No one's perfect, and we can just assume that it's going to be about fleshing out this other person that that person may want to be with at some point.
Well, you're reminding me of something that's actually really important about why coaching is a unique approach or a unique presence in someone's life. So you can imagine somebody in Bonita's situation is probably surrounded by lots of friends and family who are like, we got to get you in another relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's make that happen as soon as possible. And that might not be what she wants right now. And a coach can hold that space of, I don't need to push you to anything. I don't know what's right for you right now. You know what's right for you right now. And that might be a unique presence in her life.
Absolutely. And to Gurveen's point, be letting the client be the one providing most of the ideas is really an important piece here.
Yeah. So I'm looking at our Q&A and I'm noticing nobody has asked any questions, which is kind of
Wow.
unique. So maybe we're answering a lot of your questions, but we do want to
Yes.
invite you to ask any questions you like in the Q&A. And if the Q&A, if you're having trouble getting in, you can always put a question in the chat because we're watching the chat too.
Yes, we just want to
Yeah.
make sure that if there is something, and there's no question that's too hard, too easy, too anything, we're open to making sure that in our last 15 minutes, we cover anything that you're curious about coactive, about the demo, about coaching as a profession. We'd love to be able to answer those questions for you.
Okay, we got a question. It's
Yay.
from Daiki. And so this is a more advanced question. So this is, I'm guessing that Daiki has been through more than just the coaching fundamentals course. So she's asking, or he's asking, which principles did Nina consciously choose in this demo? It mainly seemed like process coaching. There were some powerful questions, and there also appeared to be moments of fulfillment. So what Daiki's referring to is when we talk about principles, in coactive coaching, we talk about fulfillment, balance, and process. They're basically three different methodologies that a coach could use. Fulfillment focuses on values, living in alignment with your values, your sense of purpose. It's a lot about what you want. Balance is about conscious choice. And process is about presence, being in the experience of your life. So in this question, yeah, Nina, what do you think?
Well, I think that Hadaki actually nailed it. I think it was
Yeah.
very process and fulfillment oriented, which is, again, about having her experience, what's happening now, and also what's that fulfilling future. To be honest, my North Star was to keep it basic, to keep it not too complicated, to not throw in a bunch of extra stuff because we already had the wheel of life, right? So balance wouldn't have been the most natural place to go because in that principle, we teach a whole nother tool to our students. And so I think you're right. I think it was mostly process and fulfillment.
Yeah, I would concur as well. Okay, question from Gurveen. What would you say what would you in subsequent coaching sessions encourage Benita to think about a higher satisfaction level on the same parameter? Or would you focus on any aspect that Benita might want to focus on that particular day and time? So, does it make sense, the question?
Yes, and I'm sure we both have an answer to this because this is a hypothetical, right, Chuck? What would you say to that question?
So here's what I like about that question. If I'm coaching somebody over time, I'm going to remember what we talked about last time. And it maybe is 2 weeks later. So what I don't want to do is assume that my client's entire life has been on hold or pause between our coaching sessions. A lot has happened between that conversation and our session today.
Yes.
So I want to find out where they are. And so I might say something like, any follow-up you want to do on our previous conversation.
Yeah.
And it may or may not be our topic for today. So let's align right now on what do you want to focus on for today's session. It could be the last, what we talked about last time, or it could be something else that's more important to you right now. So it's always going to be the client's choice.
Yes, very, very well said. And I don't think I would add much except for that, even though that wheel has those ratings, it's only about moving them up if the client wants that. So if they want to live in the 4 for the whole time you're coaching, because that feels like the right growth path for them, that's what we're there for them for. It's not about getting them to the 10 necessarily. So we're never making that assumption that each session we're trying to move them up through that, because oftentimes they are ending up working on something totally different in a different part of their life. So, but we are holding the whole thing.
Yeah, it's really true. Clients make progress even when we're not there.
Yes.
And so we don't get to see a lot of what happens in, in their personal growth path.
Yeah, but it is why we often just have a check-in at the beginning of the session. How are you doing? What's going on? Anything related to your homework that you want to share, because we don't want to be, we're their accountability partner only in the sense that we want them to feel like they can, that we're holding their agenda with them. We're not holding them to like whether or not they did it or not. It's more about what they learned if they did it or if they didn't do it, and what's that going to mean for next time. So we have another question asking about what's it like to be a brand new coach, and is it hard to grow your practice? Because there's an assumption that experience does matter. And I would also say that each of you is unique, and I don't mean this to sound at all Pollyanna, that people are attracted to different people. And sometimes my experience actually gets in the way of getting clients because they want someone who's got some freshness to the profession, I think. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, I would concur with that. I could see the tension in Paul's question here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm appreciating this because depending on who you're looking to coach, you might be encountering people who are like, who maybe they know a lot about coaching and they're like, yeah, I only want to coach with PCC or MCC level coaches. So that could happen.
Yes.
But that's a small portion of the market. That shouldn't limit your opportunity. Here's the most important thing is if you're starting out as a coach, the most valuable thing for you is confidence.
Hmm.
And confidence is going to come from experience and practice.
Yes.
So the more you coach, the more confident you're going to feel. And that confidence is what's going to have people feel safe to be coached by you. So it's a
Yes.
little bit of a chicken and an egg,
Yes.
but the most important thing is get a lot of experience coaching. You'll feel great. You'll feel like you can do this. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. And your clients will know that. Now, I'll add one
thing
other
I
piece.
would want
Yeah.
to say, if I can, Chuck, are you
Yeah,
ready?
yeah.
Okay. Is the methodology of coaching is gaining in popularity, and more and more people are aware of the power of coaching. And so what that means is that it's not always just about going out and setting up your own business, that there are lots of opportunities inside organizations for people with coaching skills. There's lots of opportunities to work for a firm that gets coaches hired. So I do think that if you do the work to get, I believe in certification, quite honestly, but if you do the work, get trained, I do believe that the opportunities will be there for you.
Yeah. I'm just going to echo what you're bringing up here, Nina, because I remember when I was starting out and going into my certification program, and it was like, oh my gosh, I have to get enough clients. I have to get, I have to have at least 5 clients for certification. How will I get those clients? And I tried a bunch of approaches. And one thing that really worked was letting people know that I was entering a certification program. So I did have some clients who actually were excited about the fact that I was in training. They knew that I was going to bring them new stuff every time. Like every session, I'm bringing new learning to the coaching, and they were excited about it. And some of them, I even said, I'd like to record some of our sessions so that they can be evaluated, so my coaching can be evaluated. And some of them got very involved in that. They're like, "Oh, what did your supervisor say about our last session?" Like they wanted to be involved. They wanted to support it. So I thought that was really cool.
Okay, we have one more question, then we want to move towards
Oh,
wrap up. Oh, actually, two more questions.
Two more.
So,
Yeah.
how did I address the emotionality in the session? We'd have to ask the group, or Chuck, what did you see there, Chuck, that you want to make note of?
I think the most important thing that I noticed was, and this is what I really appreciated in the coaching, was you stayed present and curious.
Yeah,
So there's an emotion here. What's going on? And it wasn't there was no effort to make the emotion go away.
right.
So what I noticed with really good coaches is they move toward emotion because it's a source of deeper understanding. And
Well
that's what I
said.
saw you do, right? Like, let's
Yes,
learn from this. Let's unfold this so we can discover what's here.
yes,
And when you do that, the emotion naturally resolves into something else. You don't have to do anything to change it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned it, and I really appreciate the question from
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
participant. And just want you to know that we hold emotions as part of the process. So that is important for you to know. If you want to become a coactive coach, we would want you to know that getting comfortable with working with emotion will be part of your training.
Hmm. All right, one more question from Gurveen. So, as a coach, how do you balance what an organization wants the individual to build on versus what the individual themselves think is important?
Wow, this is an intermediate question.
I
This is
know,
not a
right?
foundation question. I love it.
So, yeah, what would you
Well, you
say, Nina?
designed the alliance, right, Chuck?
Definitely.
Very important. Most of our buyers are getting really educated, so organizations understand confidentiality. When I started, 20 years ago, or the first time I did a corporate gig, we had to explain that what's happening in the coaching is confidential. And if you want, I'm happy to help the client share what results they're getting from the coaching, or some kind of report out. Usually the organization has expectations for some kind of outcome maybe that they're wanting. And we're also always starting with what the client wants. So you really want to make sure that there's a fit between you and what the organization's expectations are, and that you're educating your quote unquote buyer about what's going to be revealed about the coaching during the process and after it's over.
Mhm.
What would you add, Chuck?
It's no fun trying to coach a person on their company's agenda when they're not connected to their company's agenda.
Yes, that's
Right.
very
It's just
true.
because coaching, and it's not even coaching at that point, it's persuasion. So I just won't do it. I won't, yeah, it's not worth it to say yes to those jobs because they're not really coaching and they're hard. Like, it's really painful. We want I've had this, like, we want, like, if I'm Coach Nina, we want her to change how she behaves, but don't tell her.
Right.
Just get her there, right?
That's not
Yeah,
good.
it's so creepy. No, don't do it.
Yeah. It's why most companies have a best practice of a chemistry conversation, or, a
Yes,
buy-in
yes.
conversation where the person being coached, because that is really from
Mm,
a ethics standpoint, that person does need to be choosing their coach. I think that is something I would
yes.
take a stand for sure.
There are also three-way meetings. So sometimes I'll meet with the coachee and their manager so that the three of us align on the objectives for the coaching. And that can be really
Beautiful.
productive too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we're out of time for questions.
we are.
Thank you for such, in-depth questions once we got you going there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how do we wrap this up, Nina?
That's a great question. We're so glad that you came. And if you have more questions about CTI or the curriculum, our website has a lot of information about upcoming fundamentals for those of you who are brand new to us. We also have program advisors who are happy to field phone calls, and it's a very low sales approach. We really want you to feel well taken care of at CTI.
Absolutely. All right. And let's see. Oh, here we go. And here are
Yeah,
your links to stay in touch.
perfect timing. Thank you,
So
team.
come find us and absolutely let us know if we can support in any way. And best of luck to all of you on your coaching journey, whatever it happens to be.
And thank
And
you for spending your morning or late afternoon with us.
yeah. And if anybody is in Singapore, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm going to be there later next month.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we will be listening for some other things coming from you too as well.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you again to Benita for volunteering.
Yay,
It's a
Benita. Thank
pleasure to work
you.
with you.
Awesome.